that's all well and good if you can do them, right? If you can't, there are regressions on the knees. You can also do them on an incline of some kind. I've shown those in videos before. You also have other options that might prepare you or help to prepare you for progressing into a push-up. Could be something as simple as just holding the top position. So you just go here. Try to hold. Can you do this? Can you hold this? Can you do this, if this is a little too much, with a wider base? And it's actually not just a wider base when you spread your legs. You're also redistributing some of your weight. So what you'll notice is that it feels like there isn't as much quote-unquote weight on your arms and shoulders, because effectively there isn't. You've actually taken more of the weight, pushed it farther back, so your feet and legs are bearing more of the brunt of that. And then you can slowly, because notice my shoulders from the side here are back behind my hands. And as I shift my weight forward, more and more of my weight is now over my hands, and I feel that. So you can experiment with that, and then slowly start kind of shinnying your legs back together, and eventually you get to where you can hold this sort of thing. It's like a high plank, if you will. If that's too much, well, you can come down right here into what most people would call sort of a standard plank. If that's even too much, you can hike up in the air, kind of do this pike sort of situation, and you come up higher and higher. You have options there. And again, it's a similar thing. You're just regressing and progressing depending on what you're able to tolerate. So that's an option. Other things that put spins on these planky kind of positions, these push-up-y kind of positions, could simply be holding one spot. Maybe you can't do a whole bunch of reps of a push-up, but you can do this. Come up, lower yourself down, all the way. Your hands will come up. See if you can retract your shoulders, pulling your shoulder blades back. Not jerking them too much, but just a nice firm pull here. Put your hands back on the ground and push as hard as you can. Maybe you can't support all of your weight yet. This is still going to be a challenge. Try to keep your abs kind of tight. Try to feel, if it makes sense, when I say grip the floor with your feet, that might be an okay cue. If that doesn't make sense, basically you're just trying to put force through the floor with your hands and with your feet. And so from here, I'm trying to push up. You can get sore just from this, and you will get stronger in this position. So just because you're not completing a rep does not mean it's not an exercise or that it's not a workout. It absolutely can be. And then from here, let's say you can get through the whole rep. You can pick any point throughout this rep to focus on. I can come down maybe a quarter, I can come down maybe half and hold this. This is a huge challenge for most people. Right? Do just 5-second holds of each of those positions. A few rounds, say you do 4 different holds. One at the top, 1 a quarter, 1 a halfway, 1 3/4, right? Or even 5 if you want one that's right at the bottom where you're just a millimeter off the ground. Do a few sets of that. Say 3 times through, 5 seconds in each position. That's just something I'm spitting out. You can try it and figure out what works for you. And you might find that this is immensely challenging, even for some of you who can bang out a lot of push-ups real fast. Slow it down, hold it, see what you can do. So you have that as an option. Another, coming back to that top position, teaching you to transition your weight side to side. If you're not very good with normal push-ups, I would suggest if you are going to do this, stay on your knees for now, and then slowly, assuming you have a pad and your knees can handle it and it's not painful, you can start bringing your knees farther back and bearing your weight there. But the idea here is simply shifting your weight side to side. Now for me, it's actually a little more awkward to do it on my knees. So I'm going to come up here. Now if I don't shift my weight and I lift one arm, I fall. So I have to shift my weight over. It's just physics. I'm taking out part of my base of support. Now I just have the 3 points of contact, my 2 feet and my one hand. If my center of gravity is not inside that triangle, I'm going to fall over. So I have to move some of my weight over towards this side. Okay? So I come up. I'm going to shift over just a bit. You can widen your feet, as always, if you need. I'm going to come up here. 1, 2, 3, 4. You see faster versions where people almost try to drop themselves. Here, trying to minimize how much they move. I don't recommend that if you're a beginner at this. The first version that's slower with more of a movement side to side, I think is safer if you're going to do that at all. And you don't have to do it. So that's one option you have there. For some other upper body kind of stuff that you can do, I've done this before in one of my Instagram videos. Very simple. Get anything stretchy, and how much you wrap it up, the exact position you pick, the range you go through will depend on how strong you are, what your joints and muscles can tolerate, and how stiff and how stretchy the material you're working with is. So for me, let's say if I expand this to this level here, whoop, I'm losing it. Maybe this is good, right? I can start doing things here. If it's a little too light for me or a little less intense than I want, then I can fold it up, and now it's going to be harder for me to stretch it. Okay? That should be intuitive. If it's not, just experiment with the stretchy stuff that you have and you'll figure this out. But let's say I just did a whole bunch of pushing stuff, like push-ups and variations of it, and you can see my video that I did on different push-up options you have. Now you want to work some pulley kind of stuff or something that might open your arms out to the sides. Well, here you go. Get some kind of a band. And all I'm doing here, yes, my arms are in front, but I'm pulling apart. I'm trying to see if I can get some force going with the muscles that pull my arms apart. And I can do this, I'm going to show you from the side, in different positions. So I can go here, I'm kind of slouched forward. So my shoulder blades are rolled forward, and I'm trying to pull my arms apart. I can start to bring my shoulder blades back, and you'll probably notice this feels different. Pulling out from here, it's going to feel different compared to pulling out from here. It's a different sensation, and the motor control challenge is different. Some people may find it's very difficult. That's okay. The good thing is, you don't have a weight that's going to yank you out off balance. You're just using something here. And actually, it doesn't even have to be stretchy. If you can get the right length, you can get a piece of a towel or a piece of rope. I was using my judo belts for some pulling exercises I did a few weeks ago. You can do any of that. It doesn't have to stretch. You just have to be able to get it to the lengths and positions that you need so you can pull on something. So we have this option. Now, we can progress this, come up. Still pulling apart as I come up and up and up. And depending on my shoulders or your shoulders, depending on the structure and the range that's available, you may need to widen or somehow alter how inward or outward you turned your shoulders before you can get them to a certain height. That's okay. Play with those ranges and take your time. About this range here, I'm pretty good right here. I can come up to pretty close to vertical. And I can play with how externally or internally rotated my shoulders are as I do that. I promise you, if you're able to pull apart the whole time through, and you're being honest with yourself, you don't need a big heavy weight. You can get a TheraBand, some kind, or an elastomer of some kind, or a piece of rope, or a belt, or any stiff piece of cloth, any kind of, is it a rope, a towel, there we go. Anything, really, that gives you resistance as long as you're not going to rip it, as long as you're not being risky because the material's going to fail on you. You do that a few times, just coming through, and notice now I'm palms up instead of palms down. I can't go as high. Gotta turn over, because now I can internally rotate a little bit more. That actually feels better for me. See what feels good for you. And explore the edges of what you're capable of and not capable of. The limits of what you can tolerate or can't without pain. But see where you get to a point where, okay, this is a little bit uncomfortable. Maybe that's your threshold. That's maybe something you might want to explore. Take your time with it though, and practice your best judgment. But that's an option that you've got. One more thing I want to show, speaking of towels, you may have seen some of these, where, not some of these towels obviously, but you may have seen exercises where people are using a towel to do sliding one leg out or something like that. I'm not going to do that because my knee is too delicate and I don't want to tempt fate. But I'll do it with an upper body workout or a little exercise. So you can do push-up-y kind of things. That's my technical term. And you can alternate or focus on different positions and different movements that you would not otherwise maybe be able to do because of the friction on the floor. So, I'm going to come down here. One hand is in this towel, and I might slowly come out to the side. And it's a little bit like a dumbbell fly now. This is pretty tricky. So if you're a beginner with push-ups, I would not suggest this. If you're starting to get used to them, you might want to try it. Take your time. Don't go too far out. I can tolerate going pretty far out. I've done my share of flies over the years. I wouldn't recommend going too far. You might notice you can do full push-ups, no problem, but then you try this and you get to maybe about there and you go, oh, I don't think I can control it if I go any lower. That's fine. And you can create a push-up right from there. Okay? Do a few on the other side just to keep it even. We'll see how this left shoulder feels. Here. Ooh, got away from me there. So my left shoulder is a lot junkier than my right, so it's trickier on my left. So I might want to just come out to about here, do my push-ups from there. And of course, if you want, you can do that staggered position without the towel. You find whatever your neutral or your plain regular push-up is, and then shift one hand out. And you can play with where your weight goes too. So I can go from here and not really move my body too much, just move my hand out, but now I have to lean over. I have some options here. I can come over towards this arm, over towards this arm. So I have some different stuff I can play with. And depending on where your strengths and weaknesses are and what your goals are, you may have a reason to try some of that. So that's what I'm gonna, that'll be my share for today. I have a few more things I'm going to do. Maybe I'll do some ab stuff later, some flexibility stuff, we'll see. But for now, we got that. A little bit of lower body stuff and a little bit of upper body push-up and position management stuff to get you started. So, I do a few hundred more sets of that, and maybe I'll get back in shape. Take care.